Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I've heard that line somewhere, right? Okay. I'm Stephen Colby, and I'm the host today for a venture capital panel entitled What's going to be hot in 2023? And we're going to see if we're going to compare these same people. They don't know it, but we have recordings of what they predicted last year and the year before and 2 years before that. And we're going to make a chart. I'm just kidding. Okay. So we have a great set of people here. I'm going to start off by, we expect one more panelist to come on about right now. Any second he should hop on. But we're going to start with the introductions now. I'm Stephen Colby. I am a patent attorney, a former CEO. I've been CEO of a couple of funded startups. I spent most of the 90s as a CTO, and then I switched to the dark side and went to work for a law firm, which has been great. I still love working with early stage startups. That's my favorite thing, getting in there and helping them out, working on their deck, raising money, of course, getting IP. I work for Ramon Law, which is one of the largest semi-virtual law firms. We've always been semi-virtual. So most of the attorneys work from home. We're about 185 attorneys around the world and represent lots of countries and areas. And we can pretty much do anything that early startup would need. And now moving on, let's start across the top of my screen with Joe. Joe, let's hear your intro.
Greetings, everyone. Happy holidays. My name is Joe Jason, and I'm with a firm called DNA Partners. And we're we're a seed investment firm. We're focused on software industry, specifically infrastructure software in the digital media value chain. So when you're watching Netflix go fuzzy gray, or digital implementations, that's managing the software from end to end. So that's what we invest in, that type of technology. So digital media, value chain technologies, software. Our geographies are USA and China, but we are now implementing the Philippines. And our average seed investment is 50 to 500K. And we've been doing it about 8 years. And I'm going to give you my what's hot up front contextually, and then I'm going to share a couple notions that will be kind of sound like a commercial, but I'm really just trying to be really contextual here and give good advice of what's going out in the market. But my what's hot is Web3, XR, and micro mobility, and then I have a one-up that I'll share with later. So I'll be expanding on those during the session.
Yes.
And then the little commercial is, and I brought props because I'm in the physical and digital world here, but here's my business card if you want to screenshot it so you can reach me.
Pull it back a little.
I don't put my name in the, what?
Pull it back a little bit so that it focuses.
I don't want to put my name in the chat and have you copy and paste it and try to put it into your contact manager. All right, moving on to, we said that we're going to focus on the Philippines. So I wanted to let you know that we're shifting a lot of our energy from China to the Philippines, not because we don't want to do business in China. Everything's kind of unfolding there in its unique way, and it's all cyclical there. It always has been for 40 years in commerce. But I wanted to let you know some real commerce that's going on in the Philippines. So chronologically, I was part of a blockchain summit for crypto in 2018 in Cebu. 2019, I spoke at a 5G summit. Can't read that. 5G summit in Manila. And then COVID. And then in 2022, a Web3 conference, and that was just in November. So I just want to let you know that the economy there grew 5.6% last year. Ours grew 1%. And the average worker is 27 years old in the Philippines. And as far as the wireless industry, which I'm privy to, they have the third largest 5G deployment in the world. So it's China 1, USA number 2, Philippines number 3, 5G deployment. So then we know that broadband is more pervasive above ground in the Philippines. So that's the end. That's my long intro, and thanks for being patient and listening.
All right, let's see. You're up next, and then Sanjay, you'll be the third introduction.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, everyone. Great to be here. Really looking forward to this conversation. SC Moadi, I have been in the Valley for 20 years. My first 10 years as an entrepreneur, building products, worked for companies like Facebook, which people love to hate these days, Electronic Arts, Siebel Systems, and then 10 years as an investor, the last 5 years as the founder or co-founder of Mighty Capital. Mighty Capital is a venture capital firm. We invest at Series A, mostly in North America, and mostly in B2B SaaS type of businesses. In the last 5 years, we've had 3 IPOs, 3 exits, and we've raised 3 funds. Really looking forward to deploying into great companies and investments in 2023. And what's unique about Mighty Capital is that we give our portfolio companies access to a platform that engages over 300,000 product managers. And our portfolio companies use that platform to obviously to hire product managers, but also to sell to product managers in Fortune 1000 companies. More and more with digital transformations, product managers buy the technology products that our companies are building. And then they also use that platform to get acquired by VPs of product and chief product officers. And we have, success stories across all 3 of these use cases. So really looking forward to some, serious and fun predictions today on this discussion.
Steve, are you on mute?
Steve might be on mute.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Sanjay, sorry. Go ahead. And
no worries.
welcome.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve, and hello, Joe and SC. Good to see you guys again. My name is Sanjit Singh Dang. I am the co-founder and managing partner of UFirst Capital. We have been around for roughly 3 years. Prior to that, I was at Intel Capital, investing in a variety of areas like AI and big data. At UFirst Capital, we have invested in 21 companies so far, and we've had 5 exits in the last 3 years. And we're continuing to see pretty good momentum with our companies despite the downturn. One of our companies, Unifor, raised a big step up, 2.5 billion valuation led by NEA, $400 million round this year, and so on. We invest in companies that are bringing new approaches to enterprise software. We invested in DevRev, which is we did the seed round, same round as Khosla Ventures, Mayfield, and Lightspeed. And that is a company by Dheeraj Pandey and Manoj Agarwal. They ran Nutanix for a number of years, and this is their next company. They're creating a developer-focused CRM. So, we continue to invest in these enterprise companies that have a novel angle to the market and are solving big problems. Secondly, we also invest in anything that Elon Musk does. We have done several rounds in SpaceX, and in fact are looking at the current round, looking to invest in the current round. We also invested in the Twitter deal, the buyout deal that for which Elon allowed outside investors in as well. And we'll probably continue to chug along on that thesis as well. So I'll pause here, and we're based in Bay Area. I'll pause here and see if there are any questions.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna talk amongst ourselves for an hour until 1 o'clock, and then we're going to take half an hour of questions, and where people can post questions. And when you post questions, please do so on the questions and answers tab. I will go through the questions and answers tab at 1 o'clock California time, and you can send questions to specific panelists, or just throw them out in general, and I'll pick a panelist to answer them for you. All right, so the title is What's going to be hot next year? And I was joking earlier that we're going to show recordings of what each of the panelists thought was going to be hot last year and the year before, but for some reason that file doesn't open, so we're just going to have to skip that part. So, but I'm going to let Joe start because he looks really eager.
I'm so eager, chomping. So we're just generalizing what's hot.
I want to go straight for it. I mean, I have a lot of detailed questions about what you think is the effect of blockchain on, medical science, but let's go to the.
Sure.
To the,
I'm going to start with the cyclical elements of AR, VR / XR.
okay.
So we know that we've paid attention to that marketplace beyond the mobile handset, and how it's been trials and tribulations and betas and conferences associated with it around the world. We're to a point where we can draw a line in the sand, I think, my subjective opinion, that the glasses now will have a power supply that might go to your hip, or it might be built in as a short-term power supply, a long-term power supply to your hip. But the lenses, glass or plastic, the computation associated in the glasses themselves is there. And then if we look at B2C, B2B, and industrial, we're looking at AR and VR as really tangible technology that's there today that enterprises are using, the developers are building for enterprises, whether you're doing B2C or B2B, meaning they're just building it for the back end in order to go from the front end to the back end. So we think it's there, and then it converges with the metaverse. Okay, that's just fine to say whether it's 3D and you walk inside a 3D domain, or you just say the word metaverse equal to us. And the convergence between physical and digital, it really is an enabler and pervasive. We think it's going to be pervasive in the next few years. We don't care if Apple comes out with something or not. That'll just look good, but it won't have all the feature sets that another company might have, like Samsung or something, i.e. a foldable phone, or not a foldable phone, or a touch screen, notebook computer. Apple's always late to all these technologies. They might make it look good and do marketing really well, but as far as hardcore functionality for B2C and B2B, it probably won't be there. And it might be delayed like their automobile. So I think when we think about the metaverse and we think about, being in a conference or a game, we can step into the 3D and step out into reality, real life too, which is changing, the electronic lens. So we can get deeper into, what languages we think might be associated with it, but Unity platform will be a driver.
Now I'm picturing in my mind. I'm gonna go through, and after each of you gives what you think is going to be hot, I'm going to drill down, and I'm picturing in my mind now, a year from now, we're going to be in the metaverse around a conference table, and the four of us are going to be sitting there, and the attendee is going to be like a fifth person at the table, and it'll look like we're all just talking, and each attendee will feel like they're the one guest among the four of us. That's what it's going to be like.
The attendee will be, sorry to interrupt, but attendee will be a GPT powered AI avatar, not a human.
Wait, am I going to use the same thing for the panelists? Wait. Okay.
So will it be a lizard-looking?
Yeah. So
lizard-looking Zuckerberg?
For me, I have two things that I think are hot.
Okay.
The first one is blockchain and NFTs. And I'm not talking about like apes and stuff. I'm talking about NFT infrastructure as a way to power the creator economy. I think that's going to be really exciting in 2023. And the reason I think that's exciting is with the recession, whether we call it a recession or not, a lot of people are going to go back to being more of them being freelancers, starting their own businesses. That's going to boost the creator economy. And blockchain valuations, with all the crazy stuff that have been happening the last few months, have come to be a lot more reasonable, which means there's going to be more value add, solid investments in the space as opposed to kind of vanity. And so I think that that's going to drive a lot of value creation in the field. And then the second big trend that I see hot, and then I also have a couple of things that I think are not hot, but that I think is hot is global, right? And by that I mean non-Silicon Valley. I've been a diehard, like Silicon Valley is where the action is all the way through COVID. Now what I'm seeing, based on the signals that we're receiving from our global product platform, is huge amounts of innovation, specifically in two areas that are of interest to us. One is Canada, which is sort of a well-known or little kept secret right now. But the second one is MENA, Middle East and North Africa. And there's obviously a bunch of stereotypes to overcome there, especially in the States. But it's an economy that's booming, that's in search of, what's going to be the big driver of growth after oil. And so we think that there's just a lot of promises there as well. And then looking at what I think is not going to be hot in 2023, the first one, I don't think it's very controversial. I think B2C is going to be not so hot. With the recession, I mean, consumer spending is going to lower. And so kind of if you're building and then all the changes in the kind of the Apple platform maybe will be followed by some other platforms, going to make it really difficult for consumer businesses. They're going to have to reinvent their go-to-market entirely. It's going to be impactful for 2023. And then the second thing that I think is not hot, probably going to create some interesting discussion on the panel, but what's the point, right, is climate. I am not a denier of climate change. It's there. I am saying right now there's way too much money that's going into way too little opportunity that are incredibly capital inefficient. And that's going to not be hot when we have this conversation again in 2023.
You said it's not global warming, yes, but not hot. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. Yes, global warming's happening. I'm not denying that. No, climate tech right now is not going to be hot. Too much money chasing too few opportunities that aren't moving the needle effectively.
All right. Sanjit.
All right. First trend that I would like to call will be hot is the start of a limitless economy. And that's going to start in the United States and over the next 1 or 2 decades, expand to the rest of the world. And what I mean by that is that today, the size of an economy of a nation is limited by the productivity we can generate. And that is limited by the number of human beings or skilled or working human beings we have. Effectively, if you look at how you measure economy, GDP per capita times capita is the actual formula. You think per capita, you think capita cancels out, but it actually does not, for all practical purposes. And that is limited by the number of humans, like I explained. But with the advent of tools like GPT or other AI-based tools, now we are expanding the workforce. You no longer are dependent upon the human being only. Tomorrow you could put a brain chip in a dog's mind and have the dog perform maybe better than the human. Tomorrow you could just have an AI avatar floating around making decisions. So if you start looking at the size of the economy and start adding the AI workforce truly in, the AI will replace jobs. All of that has been talked about, but I'm talking of the impact to economy. Then there's no size you can put on an economy. So you start to get to what I would call limitless economy. And that will usher in a whole new era of market sizing, what companies can do, who can buy, who the buyer is, human, non-human, all of that. I think it will create a whole new line of questions and avenues of opportunities. So that's my trend number one for the year 2023. Second, and I'm sorry, SC, I strongly disagree. But Silicon Valley will continue to rule. There's absolutely very little competition to Silicon Valley. I see sparks of excellence outside Silicon Valley. I'm talking of even within the United States. The closest place that, and a lot of VCs agree with that, the closest place I've seen to Silicon Valley is Israel. But beyond Israel, I don't see other regions really catching up, because it takes years of failures, not successes. It takes years of cycles of failures for a region to go through to develop that gene pool of talent who want to leave their cozy jobs at Google and Facebook and go start a company and start going Sandal Road and raise the first $1 million. They could just sit there in the ivory towers. They don't. They decide not to. It's a personal choice. So risk taking, and then it is a second reason why I say Silicon Valley is very hard to replicate is this is the place where a 3% startup in a garage can walk into a large 100,000 enterprise office and get a pilot going, get a customer going. It doesn't happen in all regions of the world. Go try it in other regions. It's very hard to get a customer. So even if you get funding, it's very hard to get a customer. So that's my trend number two. I think during COVID, there was so much debate about people are leaving Silicon Valley, going to other places in the United States, and those regions will develop, and I like that. But I think they're far behind. The other thing, and it's not hot, but I would like it to be hot, is climate tech. I know it was talked about, but I think that is an area where we all need to work on and create a business model around it also, beyond just the social impact. So I would like it to be hot. Lastly, what is not hot or what is not going to be hot in 2023 is metaverse. I think we are on a wrong path with what Facebook or Meta is doing in terms of the type of technology stack they have built for virtual reality or for 3D imaging, 3D experience, I should say. Human beings were never designed to wear heavy glasses on the forehead for 2 hours. The weight distribution, just the fundamental engineering challenges of a VR headset have not been solved in the last 10 years. The weight distribution, motion sickness, image resolution, and if you just start looking at how many engineering cycles of learning you need to go through to fix these problems, it'll take you easily 2 years. So 2023 is out of the question for a mainstream headset. Secondly, the world, including all of us, have tried hard to find a killer app for these applications, for these devices, and we are still looking. We're all still looking. So I think even if you build a wonderful new device, let's say Apple comes up with a fantastic IVR, for lack of a better word, device, they still need to build an app ecosystem. I have other trends, but I pause here, Steve. I'm happy to answer questions, and sorry to disagree with some of the earlier.
Oh no, this makes it exciting. I've got all this stuff I'm going to drill down into now. So, and I do an awful lot of work for Facebook, and it's almost all Oculus, right? So it's headset tech. So I think that the glasses you wear are going to be a lot different than what we see now in the coming years. I think it will be closer to a pair of glasses. Yeah. I like Joe's comment about having the glasses on your face and then your phone, which is a pretty powerful processor.
Power supply.
Power supply.
No phone necessary. 5G chipset, no phone. 5G components and not any heavier than my wood glasses here.
Yes,
We'll see.
yes, exactly. You know, look at these heavy glasses. Come on, that's just not practical.
No,
People are gonna play games
Do you
or
know-
watch a video for 5 minutes and that's it. Sorry, go ahead, SC.
Essie.
Do you know how many times I've heard like, nobody's going to hold their phone like this ever, right? Look what we're doing now, right?
That is true.
The change in habits is it takes a long time to happen, but once it happens, it's like an immediate change in habit. And so I'm not saying it's 2023. I actually agree with you. Metaverse is maybe not 2023, but we're already in the metaverse. We already have a presence that's physical and a presence that's digital. It's just keep getting more and more immersive. When I look at the time I spend in TikTok and Instagram and WhatsApp, which is the metaverse already, it's huge.
Yeah, and the segment of the population that is spending more time in metaverse is the kids below 18 because they are using apps
I don't think so.
Because they're using apps.
That's the generalization that, okay, so it's a generational change, but it isn't. Just like,
But
saying like holding your phone like this, oh, the young kids are doing selfies. Yeah.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
We do
I'm not talking
selfies
of
just as much.
yeah, I'm not talking of somebody taking a selfie with a phone. I'm talking of apps like Roblox, gaming apps. Those, to me, gaming is the first use case of metaverse, and I think the younger generation has taken a leap ahead in stepping into metaverse via those apps, whether it's Roblox or other simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator, etc. There are flights happening. My 12-year-old son does this. He says, I'm flying a virtual plane with 300 passengers and I'm getting paid for it.
And Elon Musk's plane is right next to him.
We don't want to talk about.
Well, how about if I speak in non-hypotheticals? How about if I speak in realities, and then you can see it at CES if you go there. So sure. There's on the front end, there's a company called Nreal out of Beijing. Actually have a product. So, for the last year, they've been attempting to sell it at Verizon agent stores. Nreal, and it's commercial ready, it's consumer ready. It's okay, but you'll see more and more at the Consumer Electronics Show. There's a company, and we're speaking more in AR here than VR. Okay, I'm not talking about the goggles for this light discussion. But then if you go to Latin AR, it's a Korean company that actually they're using a glass lens that's etched, and they can do the mirrors down onto the lens, and then you're fully in AR, and it's not a heavy piece of equipment at all. And then on the back end, there's a whole area in New York and Brooklyn that's almost dedicated to AR, at least a floor on a building at the Brooklyn shipyard. And there's a company called Echo 3D. They used to be called Echo AR, Echo VR, but now they're called Echo 3D. I don't remember if it was Echo3D.io, but Echo 3D is going to do all the back end for whether it's a large corporation like Caterpillar trying to deploy an AR solution set, or a new gaming company or Roblox or whoever. So they've been running for about 3 years. They've got it pretty down to a science on how to do the back end for an AR solution set. So that's speaking in non-hypotheticals. And, Luxottica has been putting a lot of R&D into all of this to make it not a heavy handset or a heavy headset, so to speak. Use your glasses. So it's out there in iterations. So just take a look, and hopefully you'll go to CES, and there's a whole large division of AR now at CES.
Yeah. All right. So I am taking notes on this, guys. So we're going to go over these comments next year. All right. So I will look those up, and I kind of got an idea. Like I was about to make some investments, and Joe is pushing me towards Facebook. SC is pushing me towards
Facebook. Oh.
No. Okay. Metaverse is different than Facebook.
I don't have anything to do with Apple or Facebook. I'm forced now to deal with Google with a handset. I just dumped off Microsoft as far as 2020. So I have no
Okay.
commitments to these
Oh,
companies at all.
okay, wait. I'm adding that to my note.
If I could omit those 3 companies out of my life, I would. And I will.
Oh, you can. It would be like the power would go out, right?
Never
Very-
committed to these companies except for one Galaxy handset. Forced.
So we can go back and forth on this. I think Facebook has a lot of promises to it.
Great. I just don't agree philosophically with the leadership.
Oh,
Since
philosophically.
day
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
since 2004.
Good.
Yeah. I had a company a while ago, and one of my investors wrote a book called Zucked.
And I also don't go to Burger King versus McDonald's. You know, it's just
Yeah.
a choice.
Yeah.
I don't have a Mercedes versus a BMW, right? These are choices in the world that we make.
Okay, I'm happy. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the climate. SC, you talked about the climate not being hot, and I think you were referring to for venture capital investment. Do you think there's ways or types of improvements, and maybe Sanjit has some input here, on how that could be remedied so that more support for correcting climate change could be possible?
Sure thing. It's just like many waves of innovation. It's way too early for venture capital to get involved. The way that this can become possible is with first, government initiatives, then billionaire projects, and then finally it will be time for venture capital to come in. Just like, a lot of ways of innovation, like space exploration, like telcos, like 5Gs and all that kind of stuff. It generally starts with like a huge push from organizations that are, governmental or associated to that kind of stuff. Then there are a few billionaires who dream big and want to make changes and leave their mark. And then ancillary opportunities that are well suited for venture capital become available, and that's when venture capital money can get into these opportunities.
So if I were to get you an appointment with Schumer or a couple of congressmen and congresswomen, what would you tell them government needed to do in order to move this whole thing in the right direction?
I have no idea.
Yeah, okay, that's a good answer.
I'm not in politics for good reason.
Well,
it's too complicated.
What needs to be done before? What foundational steps need to be made by the billionaires and the government before venture capital can step in? What would you need to see?
I mean, some of the things that you can look at is, why do corporations today avoid to be zero waste or to be like sustainable because it for some reason it's additive to their bottom line. So finding some way to tax
or incentivize
corporations that would incentivize sustainability, zero waste would be probably where I would look at, talking to governments. And then with the billionaires, it's just like every kind of a tech billionaire has some space exploration project, having something similar related to the environment. And between these two types of major initiative, then all of a sudden you start to really see some momentum behind a whole new industry around sustainability and zero waste. And that means that as these massive projects get underway, smaller projects that are suited for venture capital funding become a reality.
Yeah, I know at least one tech billionaire that watches this panel on a regular basis. So what would you suggest? What would your favorite project be for him or her? Okay, I've got 15 billion I want to drop on. Is it going to be deforestation, or is it going to be light bulbs, or do you have any thoughts? No, I guess we're looking beyond 2023, clearly. But Anybody else?
I
Yeah.
if I may step in.
Go ahead, Sanjit.
Sure. So, a few things need to happen before personally speaking, I would like climate tech to be ripe for venture capital, and I would like, as I mentioned, I would like a business model to be viable in climate tech for startups to come in and thrive and drive the impact, because it has such a good social impact along with the potential financial benefit as well. But it's not there yet as a sector. So I think agencies like Department of Energy or National Science Foundation need to tailor some of the funding towards developing research technologies for whether it's deforesting, or whether it is carbon neutrality or other big topics within this climate tech sector. And once that phase happens and flushes out, then you will start to see, hey, here are 10 to 20 core technologies that have been developed purely at a research level. Now can we start productizing them? And then on the adoption side, you need to have corporations ready to adopt. They don't adopt these solutions. This typically falls under a side organization within a corporation, whether it is a CSR, corporate social responsibility group, or another group. This has to become core of the corporation. This has to become the center of the debate of a boardroom. It's not. So both of those things have to happen.
Joe?
To answer your question about billionaire projects, right? So for governments like tax and regulation, so billionaires typically tends to be like, I'm going to change the world type initiative, right? Like you look at, I'm going to send people to Mars, I'm going to end all illnesses. Yeah. And so it could be something like, I'm going to clean the ocean. Or it could be something like, I'm going to rebuild the Greenland and recreate ice, stuff like that. Stuff that seem completely impossible, but are going to be, driving innovation and be a project that's like a legacy leaving type project.
Yeah. Joe?
A little bit of a monologue here or reply. Anyone that knows me, they always know that I approach anything, any industry and investment associated with it, that you have to look at the geographic areas first. You look at what the governments are doing outside of the United States, because the United States is free enterprise. Other countries have their equivalent of what free enterprise is, but majority around the world of 190 plus countries, everything's pretty much done from the top down. So you can figure out what the strategy is and what the commitments are in each geographic region and governments associated with it. And that goes from technology to climate. And we're just talking about technology, whether that's software or with it just climate in general. So I approach everything from the top down. So I say this on panels all the time, government to the developers, software developers. That's my perspective. And then from the bottom up, developers to the governments. And then specifically in the United States, it's not esoteric where these billionaires are just saying, I'm going to clean the ocean or just fix transportation. No, what they're good at is taking the government money, okay, and the private money, private equity, and they put the two of them together and they build a plan. It's called a business plan. And then they execute on the business plan with milestones and initiatives and goals, and they have to hit those goals in order to receiving more money. So nothing's esoteric about putting in a new train system in South Florida called Brightline. Okay, that's public and private money going together, because the public money won't do it. So it takes an entrepreneur to put that public and private money together. So then you can ride that ecosystem of electric train that goes from Miami to Orlando. And then that's a case study for the world. And it took a billionaire to do that. And now it's going to happen from Los Angeles to Vegas, and it's going to be called Brightline, right? So Brightline Entrepreneur is making this happen. So always look at geography, then the government commitments, and then the technology associated with it. And then what are the developers percolating up to those initiatives?
Okay, great. Well, that was certainly a lot out of that question. I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going to now move on. The next question I had is too related. It's like, what do you think is most likely to be overall in the VC community, how that's going to weather the coming economy? And I think in your answer, you'll have to put in some predictions about the coming economy and interest rates and VC type investment. So this is a macroeconomic question about how you think the VC community is going to be active in investing next year. Let's start with Sanjit.
Yeah, I think you will see for the first half of 2023, you will still see subdued venture capital investment, what you saw in 2022 till now. So that trend will likely continue. VCs are investing. It's not that VCs are not investing. They are investing, but investing in fewer deals, more dollars per deal. And the questions they're asking are more stringent. They want to see more revenue. They want to see seed stage companies, but with revenue and so on. So the metrics are tightening. The late stage companies, for them, the IPO market is very tough, as you know, we've seen in 2022, and I think that will continue into probably the entire 2023. But I think they should use this time to tighten the ship. A lot of the tech startups go public without a profitability roadmap, and that's a problem. That has been a problem traditionally once you enter the era of Wall Street investing. So this is the time to tighten up the ship, focus on your core value proposition, and really create a good story for going public whenever the public markets open up. Because when the public markets open up, they're not going to loosen up the criteria. They will still expect you either have profitability or show a very clear roadmap to profitability. And Wall Street is pretty brutal about it, and rightfully so. You also need to be able to show recurring revenue stream. So those fundamentals will be asked very strictly. And I think that environment will continue into 2023. And venture funding into second half of 2023, we'll see. May pick up, may not pick up. It remains to be seen.
Right. Essie?
Yeah, I do agree with Sanjit that in 2023, there's not going to be a lot of exits. The IPO window is still going to be closed. I hope it reopens early 2024. And then when it comes to M&A, it's going to be mostly predatory. Like if you're a struggling company and you're running out of cash, maybe you'll get acquired, but not for the amount of money you were hoping to get. Like the heydays of M&As where people make a lot of money, is probably going to be tight in 2023. So that's on kind of working backward on what are the chances of exits, and they're fairly low in 2023. So as a consequence, it means in 2023, you're going to have to make money either from your customers and be break even, which is the ideal scenario, or you're going to have to raise money from investors, and that's going to be difficult. Agree also with Sanjit, there's still money to deploy, so there's still money out there. The question is, what are the strings attached to that money? When I look at valuations, I think valuations have leveled off. I don't know that they're going to get that much lower than where they are today, because inflation means there's going to be some equilibrium at some point. What I would encourage entrepreneurs to watch is terms. Like we've seen, terms that are generally like much tougher for rounds that are being raised. And so valuations, I think, are going to be at a reasonable / fair level, and then terms may be a little tight. The third thing that I think the current environment is doing is it's going to tighten or loosen, depending on how you look at it, the labor market. Last couple of years, we had a shortage of workers. We had the Great Resignation. But now we've had, hundreds of thousands of people get laid off. And so the dynamic in the labor market, I think, is going to change. We're going to see more people on the job market. It means that it may lower salaries, but then inflation again is going to probably mean there's an equilibrium that's going to be reached the first half or around the summer of 2023. And probably I would also predict a return to the office as a result of the changing dynamic in the labor market.
Okay, great. Joe?
First of all, I want to say that, we hear all these rumors and press saying that there's going to be a recession. And if you listen closely, it's the press, it's the government, and it's the bankers that are saying there's going to be a recession. And then if the large corporations are out there saying, and the real estate market's out there saying, we don't see any recession. We don't see it. People are saying it, but we don't see it. So
I'm busy.
Yeah, so I'm not saying I agree or disagree with all that. I'm just trying to read between the lines on the two different sectors. If it's just, the press and the government, and then, corporate 50 CEOs. And then I think to answer your question specifically, what's going to be for investment, let's just say investment in the United States. Let's just stick with the United States for this discussion as far as venture capital. I think we got to step out of our Silicon Valley bubble and not approach all this notion with, entrepreneurs must come to VCs, and that's the typical way, and it's been going that way for 40 plus years in Silicon Valley. The last 10 years, you can go get different sources of capital, right? You can go to, of course, friends and family, seed investors, family offices are more proactive out there in the technology.
Customers.
You've got venture capitalists, small, medium, and large. Some are sunsetting, right? And then you've got venture capital, then you got private equity, and then you got SPACs that are winding down. That was a nice trend. Yeah. And then you got IPO. So it depends on where you want to enter, how you want to do it. Crowdfunding, I missed that one. So crowdfunding is obviously a realistic option. I'm not just talking about Indiegogo and Kickstarter. I'm talking about other realistic $1 to $10 million crowdfunding sources that are out there. So I think for us in 2023 is entrepreneurs are figuring out how to get revenue or capital from different places. And then there'll be different types of exits because the VCs won't be saying, you must exit the large company or you must go IPO. We'll just have different types of exit coming down in the next 10 years. So what's the success of an exit? It isn't Silicon Valley deciding, it's the entrepreneurs deciding and their investors.
The friends of mine that are the most successful entrepreneurs, one of them had just gotten funding in 2002 and the VC pulled the money back out, and the company is now owned by the two founders, and it's very, very successful. And if it hadn't been for the VC running away, he wouldn't be climbing Kilimanjaro and in Bali or wherever else, right? I have this discussion with startups because when I bring them in, the first thing I ask is what's their plan? Because for the business strategy and the IP, it's like, do you plan to get venture funding? Do you want to be an S Corp or C Corp, or what kind of investment do you want to make in intellectual property and why? And more and more, it's, let's figure a way to make this bootstrap. How can you take this business and come up with a, minimal viable product that will actually you'll get paid for, and, keep your staff to 3 people until you're above 100,000 a month, and that kind of stuff. That type of conversation comes by more and more.
It's grit and gravitas. It's not 1999 or 2010 Silicon Valley where it's I got a business plan. I want to raise $10 million and then I'll build it and then the consumers will come and I'll do banner ads to make money. I mean, that's over. I mean, let's step
Eyeball.
out of that, and oh, the mobile phone came next, 2010 to 2020, 22, then we're going to be an app, we'll be an app economy and become a billionaire with an app. Like that's all over. Now it's a whole new generation. And
Sanjit brought up the one thing I think today that's more earth-shakingly new in the idea that we had agriculture and it changed the world, right? And we had industrialization and changed the world. And the idea that he talked about early on about no longer requiring human capital and making that the limit on growth, yeah. Right? So like, okay, we don't need to go to 12 billion people with, that has a huge, it has a huge, even the climate. I think that is
that real quick, where the press is announcing all these layoffs. Oh, the tech, CNBC is talking about the tech industry and there's layoffs, but that's an anomaly to technology, the layoffs. Well, of course, the press doesn't talk about that they scaled up in 2021 by 10% of their company, and now they're just laying them off in 2022. So
they overshot.
With Sanjit's comment, it's going to be like, hey, we don't need to hire those 10,000 people that we did in 2021. Now we can, hybrid it with a bot.
Exactly. And that expands the horizons for the size of an economy and also expands what we can do. AI can do superhuman tasks that humans can't do. And I can.
So I agree with what you're saying here, Sanjit. By the way, it's been like almost 100 years that we're saying that, right? That's how Ford started their factory. We're going to replace, humans with machines. It's nothing new under the sun. What we're seeing in our portfolio is that AI companies are still very much service companies. They are basically SaaS companies on the outside, right? But service companies disguised as SaaS companies for the most part. And so while it's very promising, and I agree with you, it's definitely going to drive so much productivity gain and new opportunities. I like the idea of like limitless or infinite economy, however you call that. It's still a very slow progression when it actually comes to execution. And it's still very much a service business model, not so much a SaaS business model.
Yeah, and I agree with that because AI has till today solved pretty rudimentary level problems, image recognition, or predicting machines failure in a factory. I think the closest we have seen to AI really solving real world problems is Tesla's autopilot. And that's also in beta, keep in mind.
So when I fly international on United now, I don't even have to show my passport anymore when I'm getting on the plane because it's just facial recognition, and that they didn't.
I have AI.
I didn't check a box like, oh, you might do that. It's just when you buy the ticket, you're automatically, going to have to be.
It's a good thing your twin brother isn't a criminal. Right. I have clients in the AI medical space that, they're doing really groundbreaking life and death things. Okay.
I just wanted to say with Sanjit's comment, like it's just a case study right there, lines and just automatically implementing it.
One of the aspects that I think is underappreciated is that this is a non-linear process. The more the technology grows, it's an exponential process. So especially with AI, those tools are going to work on themselves, and we can start talking about where it's going to end up. That's a different story, but I think the fact that my child doesn't know what a dial phone is. Right. Yeah.
United is trying to do a whole IM collaboration suite customer care center, and every time I go to it, it doesn't work. But then I can get on an airplane with facial recognition.
I have a client who, in that space, AT&T customer service, their bot. That's all my.
Hey, I think customer customer contact centers are huge investment centers and huge, significant ecosystem around it for venture investors.
Are you investing in that area?
I'm not investing in it personally. I'm investing in it in a startup company that can empower it, but that's not with our firm.
Yeah. Great. Let's see. It is almost 1 o'clock, and so I'm going to open the Q&A in just a minute and start answering questions from our audience. Is there anything else you guys would like to say before I do that?
I want to look for a surprise new technology that comes out of nowhere, and then we like, wow, this approach was totally novel.
Fusion.
Okay.
That won't be another decade. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Just a nugget of information. So there's a news publishing company called Axios. Maybe some of people have heard of it, but right now they're doing where you contribute to their economic report, and then on December 21st, you get that economic report. So it'll be their economic writers and journalists, and then your input. So if you go to axios.com, and then it's like something like your economic report, and you can fill out a survey in there, and then you get the report back.
It's called Axios, ACT.
No, sorry, AXIOS, Axios. And it's
Axios.
Yeah, it's a great media company out of DC. It's hard for us to find good journalism now, and this is just one company that is holding its own on ethics, I think.
SC?
Nice.
Axios.
Any closing comments before I go to the questions?
No, I thought it was a good discussion.
Yeah, it's nice. I do have notes, and I am going to put them in a appointment reminder for December of next year, so it'll pop up on my screen, and I'll go, I can remember this. And you know what is nice is I've seen at least 2 of you in person in the last couple of months, which is great. So, and I will probably see Joe at CES.
Yeah,
I'll be the guy behind the mask, maybe.
Yep. That's cool. I'll be behind the AR glasses.
Oh, good. Okay, let's go, and I'm going to open up the Q&A and see what we've got on my computer. The first question's from Anonymous. Where can I find a recording of this? That's a good question. It will take about a day or half a day for Zoom, to process the recording, and then I will send it out to a very capable admin who will take the list of all the registrants for this event and send them the link. So you should have the recording within about 5 days. So the weekend, it'll probably be by Wednesday. The next question is, we are very successful in 2014 in equity crowdfunding for King Cocoa Beverage Corporation. We're now looking to do an IPO on the Asian stock market in next year. What's the best way to protect our Canadian and US investors? Does somebody have a comment?
Asian stock market?
Yeah, on an Asian stock.
Yeah, so I think Hang Seng is really the only one worth going to in Hong Kong. And how do you protect? Well, how do you protect? I think you should talk to investment bankers about that.
Yeah, Neil, if you reach out to me, we have corporate investment people in Asia at Ramon, and that I can connect you with, and they might be able to help you with that question. Okay, Zachary, his question is, yes, I'm with NobeHub. Okay, everybody agree? That's fine. All right, Amit, whose perspective is all this hot from? Investors, entrepreneur, or consumers? So I think that the panel is mostly investors. So I think we're probably looking at a group of Silicon Valley type investors. I'm sure that if we got an investor from Oslo, it might be a little bit different. And maybe we'll put a panel together like that of investors from like a 4-continent panel. That would be great.
Global.
Yeah, that would be something I'll suggest to Idea to IPO to try to do a panel. Maybe you guys who can connect us with investors that you can recommend in different parts of the world that you think are
Sure,
especially
happy to help.
interesting. That would be great. So yeah, entrepreneurs, I think entrepreneurs hopefully are working in the area that they're actually working in, and they think that's the hottest one. So I can answer that question right off the bat. You know, as a patent IP attorney, what's hot is just things are coming through. Medical is really big. Metaverse is, in my point of view, because I see all of Oculus, and that's a lot. Blockchain is great. I mean, and NFTs, all the fluff is gone, but I see companies doing really useful things with NFTs now, where it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. You take something that's non-fungible and you connect it with an NFT and then make it fungible, and that like opens up a whole new world of economy and market. So I may not believe in the hype of blockchain so much, but I do believe in NFTs and the long-term survival of some type of cryptocurrency in some form. Okay, so next question is, do you believe the industrial metaverse will be used to develop disruptive solutions in a wide scale of branches? And we're not talking trees here. We're talking lots of different industries. So I'm going to ask Joe, because he was talking about the metaverse. Can you give us some examples of different industrial things that you've seen?
Architecture firms out on a construction site it's been going on for I would say 6 years already, as far as your blueprints that are coming in on your AR glasses. And then getting down to you need to see some of the specs in millimeter when you're on the site. So those can be, you don't need wireless connectivity to be able to do that. When you're on the site, you can be looking at it.
And I've seen the same technology where they've scanned the site as construction occurs. And 15 years later, in theory, you walk into the building and you put on the AR glasses and you can see where all the pipes are in the wall, right? You can see through the wall. You can see where the electrical panel was. You can see where somebody did some wiring. And so, I mean, basically, you virtualize the building as it's being constructed, and you have that record forever. And those technologies are now at the point where it's basically like a pair of glasses or a headset somebody puts on, and they walk around the building a couple times a day, and everything is digitally recorded with visible and IR and laser sensors. And that becomes really cool. You can now digitally record an entire shopping mall in about an hour.
Yeah,
into a virtual space.
And now we can triangulate multiple topologies, so you can have indoor wireless, whether that's LiDAR or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and then you connect that to 3G, 4G, 5G, whatever the company, the solution provider is working on. So you can get down to the millimeter, of what you're looking at through your AR glasses. So there's a lot to be had. When you say industrial, I guess I'm thinking of like you laying down train tracks or building a skyscraper, or I think there's a market for all of that. So I would say infrastructure, not industrial, enterprise, and consumer. So all three categories. What only gets talked about is consumer and metaverse, or associated with it, but all three categories.
When Joe was talking earlier about shipping and stuff, the image that came to my mind is the UPS driver with a headset, and he turns on the glasses and it instantly highlights the location of all the boxes in his truck that go to the specific address. He doesn't have to go digging around, right? This is like, and the software takes care of everything, right?
And the access code to the skyscraper to get into security, or whatever,
So,
I know that you may think it more volatile than a Ring doorbell, but it's really not, right?
Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to the next question. MedTech. So people are, Mark is bringing up MedTech, and I think probably a quarter of my clients right now are in the MedTech space. Of course, varies over time, but I have 3 companies in babies. The one does ultrasound. They predict premature birth, which insurance companies love. We're using ultrasound. I have an IVF client, and I have a postnatal care client that uses radar, indoor radar, and monitors breathing rates of, so you talk about millimeter detection. You can look at the heartbeat and a breathing rate of a baby with a, or 80 or 90-year-old with a little radar unit on the corner of the
I think
room.
the Mayo Clinic would like that a lot for remote patient care.
That's the area right now. Radar in remote patient care is a big area. Okay, medtech, digital medicine, telemedicine. Yeah. So today I am going to work on a company. Will, you know, you can do you can swallow a camera and it'll take a picture of all your insides and come out. Well, now you can do that at home.
We used to call that nanotech.
Yeah, well, yeah, now it's communication tech where you swallow a camera capsule, you get something in the mail. It's like you're, and you swallow it at home and you're doing it on Zoom real time with the doctor, and the doctor is watching the camera go through you while you're sitting in your living room. Okay, that's where, okay. PV and wind are economical, need better grid. Earth Grid is one company, okay. Yes, I think grids are going to be big. That's actually one of my predictions, because the generation in the distribution of generation is going to change, and that's going to require a huge change. I'm predicting that, for example, Ukraine might restructure a lot of their connections now that they have this unfortunate opportunity, because they can now change from centralized power plants to distributed generation and things like that. Okay, John is asking, why is medtech not in the discussion? Does anybody else want to say something about medtech?
Well, I can say I don't have much to say about, because it's not our vertical. So
okay,
we touch on it orthogonally, using the horizontal AI approaches that some of our companies take. So it is a big vertical, but to invest in a core medtech company takes a lot of courage for an investor. I have to mention that.
Government top down, governments decide what the regulations are, then the technology.
Yeah, if you are a medtech startup trying to go to, let's say, Kaiser or other providers and saying, hey, they're like, okay, great, but my bigger problem is people don't even have healthcare, or people who have healthcare, they don't have good care. So I need to focus on other things. So anyways, I can go on and on, but
we do some medtech investments, and by that I mean health AI, and there are great opportunities. But this is talking about what's going to be hot in 2023. I think that was very hot in 2022. Will it continue in 2023? Probably. But I think the other things we talked about this past hour are going to be newer and very attractive.
I think that to specifically answer the question is, we can't know everything. The three of us can't know everything about everything. So you have to look at our biographies before the panel and then figure out, okay, what are these guys most likely to talk about?
So there are some good med tech focused startup groups. SOP, the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs. Innovator MD is great. I judge sometimes their panels. And if you're interested in doing medtech and meeting medtech investors, look for those types of organizations that are specifically focused on medical areas. And there's enough of them that if you're a medtech company, that should really get, and especially when you're talking to investors about medicine, you want investors that understand it, right? So it saves everybody's time to focus to investigate your prospective investors, and make sure that when you talk to them, that you're talking at the level of understanding for your subject matter, right?
Minneapolis, St. Paul is a big med tech hub, so consider that. There's some investors there around medical.
Yeah. So Anne is asking, what are all thoughts on about federated AI, learn tech, and architectures that turn the data ownership paradigm upside down?
So this whole thing about data ownership, I think NFT are really the next gen of transformation. Again, it's the creator economy. And I'm not saying, oh, they're going to change the way Facebook and TikTok have their business model set up. That ship has sailed. But if if I was starting my career today as a creator or a freelancer, and I wanted to kind of set the path right, I would go into that field of NFT, or whether it's data ownership, copyright, creative assets ownership.
Yeah. So before, and I couldn't say anything, right? But I agree with that completely, SC, because some of the more interesting NFT things involve tying data to an NFT, right? A lot of people use data for a lot of things, whether it's advertising or medical research or studies or shipping information, logistics, whatever. And so how do you buy and sell that data? And NFTs are a great way to do that. So I've seen some, I can't go into detail, but I've seen some really interesting companies that are doing exactly that. Joe, yeah.
I think it's slowly shifting. I think I've always been one to say that I think Silicon Valley is really grossly slow to shift the business models and experiment with business models associated with B2C. But just today, I think there's more journalism that's going subscriber based and less advertising. It's shifted. The tectonic plates are shifting a little bit. Today, I joined the Alta, ALTA journal, and it's altaonline.com. And I went through the whole privacy policy before I subscribed and everything. And it looked pretty good. They're not selling PII information. There's no advertising. And so it felt like a journal, a magazine that was more geared towards content than clearing for advertising.
All right. Okay, let's see. We have a few more minutes. Gary is asking, any predictions in biotech and biotech with blockchain? So I'm going to focus that on biotech blockchain. Has anybody seen? Again, I have, but I can't say anything about it. But yeah.
Biotech and blockchain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen biotech and NFT. But
I think blockchain will slowly but surely creep into biotech, and whether it does that via bringing in credibility on a chain instead of via a central force, or whether it helps with better drug development, or whether it touches other aspects of biotech, but I think it will.
For prescriptions, yeah, verification of prescriptions, the blockchain is perfect.
Yeah.
And there's
totally.
There's a couple blockchain companies out there that I met like in 2018 that were doing that. And then I think I'm going to speak over you again, Sanjit. Sorry, it's just a train of thought here that there's two blockchain platforms that have a theme of transitioning from companies from Internet 2.0 to 3.0. They're kind of softer versus just, a lot of the 3.0 companies are just like your 3.0 or nothing. But there's two, Solana, which we know Solana's geared towards the developer community. And then Near Protocol, it's almost their tagline. Near Protocol is like we're transitioning 2.0 companies to 3.0 companies.
okay.
Yeah.
Any more comments here? All right.
No.
Anonymous is asking about diagnostics, treatments, cures for chronic illness and long COVID, similar illnesses like. But these should have eventually a good ROI, but these are longer term goals, needing federal or philanthropy to accelerate now. Okay, is that a question? Yeah, this is again not the right group for a biomedical analysis. Let's go to the next, sorry, Anonymous. Let's go to the next question with Jazamit, which are what are some of the problems you think aren't being addressed? What would your dream of a company coming to you and say, we have a solution to this problem. What problem would you like? I'm not going to make you come up with a solution, but what problem would you like to see solved? And would you make you go, yeah, I want to invest in that? SC, what do you think? You're smiling, so I'm going to go on.
I think we talked about some of those climate tech, metaverse. Those are big problems that need to be solved, and that can usher mankind or AI kind into a whole new era of productivity, and open up the horizons for applications that we can't even imagine. But those problems have not been solved. Those are two imminent problems that really need to be solved. And then there are others you can create as well. I would like traffic in San Francisco to go away. Why don't I have a flying taxi?
Hey, I can transition
Yeah.
into that discussion, but I'll let
Essie, go ahead.
No, I mean, I agree. It's like, I'm thinking like, hey, I'd love a company who comes in and tells me I have a solution to reduce inequalities. But then I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to also find a company that tells me like, I'm going to make it like a one-click filing of taxes. I mean, it's just like, you can go like so far. So, and by the way, when I think of what is innovation, it actually is not so much done this way. It's very much grassroots. Like, people see problems they want to solve, and then survival of the fittest, the biggest problem of the moment end up being solved. So I think there's efficiency in the market, and I don't think it's our role as investors to say this is what needs to be fixed. It's the role of entrepreneurs to say this is what needs to be fixed.
Joe, you're on.
I'm just going to take a macro approach at this, because we can't, what's going to, free candy? I don't know, I don't know. But I want to promote the U.S. Department of Commerce's event that they put on once per year called Select USA. That is each state, that's once per year physical event. Each state of the 50 states is an exhibitor. And then U.S. Department of Commerce invites delegates from around the world to go shopping at this conference. For each state has its benefits, right? Whatever it is, California's movies and software, and right. But if for the what's hot and what's not, if you go to selectusaSummit.us, there's a business plan competition every year from around the world. And I've been a judge, I've been a speaker and a judge at that since 2018, every year. And we had 1 year offline, or online. So you can see all the business plans that all the companies that present there, and then their business plans associated with it, and then who ranked the top 10 each year as far as winning. And so the judges were from around the nation and different industries. SelectUSASummit.us.
Okay. Sounds great. I have judged for on and off for at least a dozen years for the Clean Tech Open, which is great, and I like helping those companies with pitch decks and stuff like that. And we were talking earlier about whether government needs to help with clean tech. There's a lot of little things. I mean, I remember a few years ago, a toilet won in the water division, right? And it was designed for refugee camps. Okay, so there's a lot of different solutions out there that aren't spectacular. VCs are not going to invest in that company probably, but they're going to have customers that will invest in them.
Crowdfunding, family office,
SBIR grants, right? So yeah, those are great. I have clients that go for their first 6-8 years on grants. Yeah, and
nothing wrong with that.
And well, it's of course their valuation is huge the first time they take funding, right? So
Venture funding.
Yeah. So if they can make it that long, they're a safer investment than after having demonstrated of that length of time. So, well, anything else? I don't see any more questions coming up, and I'm gonna. Oh no, I do. Sorry. Oh, okay, quantum computer and nuclear fusion. Okay.
Quantum computers will happen.
Yeah. So I'll do nuclear fusion. I have a PhD in chemical physics. So yeah, it'll be great. Another 20 years maybe. And a few people will have it, and it'll be a long time before.
Is the US going to be a leader?
I don't know if it'll be the US, but it'll be the US or China. I think one of those two. The quantum.
I can comment on quantum computing. I'm not an expert in the field, but what I know is that it's one of the technologies that will really unleash blockchain at scale. For example, blockchain right now, one of the key barriers to the growth is that it's very slow compared to kind of traditional software. With quantum computing, you can increase the speed of execution of blockchain transactions by several orders of magnitude. And so applications that today are impossible on a blockchain, like for example, trading financial markets or ad exchanges may become possible on blockchains with quantum computing, which means that enables blockchain applications at scale with more traceability, more reliability, more transparency than the traditional existing solutions. So people have been asking in the chat, I see like there's no killer app for blockchain. That kind of blockchain quantum relationship might be the kind of the killer app for blockchain to become mainstream.
Yeah, my comment on the quantum computer is that the first to get that is going to have, I mean, this is a strategic play for industry, for governments, for people. It's going to be such a change. I mean, much less that every password we have will go away. The security issues and it could be in the next 5 years easily. So I think that's going to be the first country to get that. It's much more important than nuclear fusion, because the quantum computer will help figure out nuclear fusion 10 times faster than existing systems. The first quantum computers, though, are going to be pretty darn specific. They're going to run one function, right? So we'll see. All right, Yuri, again, we have 3 minutes left. Any thoughts on the initial seeds of auto AI based engineering, auto science? Do you see such concepts in startups? AI based research or engineering?
A lot of startups are doing AI based research, I would say. We just invested in a company called Neo Cybernetica. That is Jeremy Achin. Jeremy Achin was founder of DataRobot. That's his next company. And they're doing fundamental AI-based research. The applications will come a few years down the road, maybe a couple of years down.
I've seen some cases where AI is used for battery development, for example. MIT had a big program on that a few years ago. And as a patent attorney, I'm like, well, how's that going to work? Yeah, so it creates some issues in my field. So, Essie, anything about this? Shall I move on? Okay. Somebody's asking, do you expect in 2023 lots of venture revenue investments will go into generative AI space?
It's the buzzword. It's the hottest thing. VCs have replaced crypto with generative AI overnight. But it's early days.
Okay.
Idea to IPO had a very large AI conference. It was February, March 2020, right before COVID, February. And it was a whole AI day. And so we've been getting questions like that. What's going to be, will VCs invest in AI? Well, it's been called business intelligence. It's been called this. So where I want to go with that general sweeping, statement of will venture capital or will it be their investment in AI? Yeah, because AI just compounds everything else. So just come to a prospective investor with AI plus micro mobility, AI plus sensors of IoT, AI, just
How about AI screening
doing a
business
vertical
plans?
to it. AI and bio devices.
Yeah. Okay. So we're at the end now, and so I'm gonna ask the final question, which is, how would you like to be contacted if anybody would like to contact you? I see that SC has cleverly put her email address, sc@mighty.capital, in her username, and that's great. And could each of you give, whether it's LinkedIn or an email address or your personal cell phone number or your home address, whatever?
Well, I just got
Joe
back
is
on
laughing.
LinkedIn. I took myself off in 2007. I came back on in 2021 for a case study. So I have like 62. I'm picky with who I choose. And so if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn and let's look at our profiles. Woo.
Okay. All right.
Feel free to email me. That's why I put my email in there if anybody wants to contact me.
Yeah, I put my email as well.
Okay. Did you just put your email up? Yeah. Sanjay, not everybody will save the chat, so it's sanjit@ufirstcapital.com. And I'm going to put mine up, which is stephen.colby@ramonlaw.com. I'm pretty easy to find on the web and LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's it.
I want to card in the beginning too. My business card.
Did? Okay. Well, let me type this.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy
Stay
holidays.
safe. Stay healthy.
Thank you, Steve.
Folks.
Joe
Really nice
and
being
SC
here.
had
Thank you.
discussion.
I'm going to
Thank you
Joe.
for the
I'll see you
idea
at
to IPO
CES.
team.
Okay. Bye-bye. Yes.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.